Hello, fellow bugs. Welcome to Purple Titk, in a series about lessons learned in the journey of my project car Miata, specifically what to and not to do. This series starts with me having no knowledge of cars or working on them, to eventually building race engines, custom wiring harnesses, doing engine swaps, and even doing a rebuild title process on this car and others. For more details on what I have done and learned since, smash that bell, subscribe, eat some grass, like, and comment. Let me know what you would like to see more of. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy. And this right here is kind of the output of my next endeavor. So I went ahead and earlier I started cutting out the bad metal, and I knew I had plenty of quarter panel to work with. And the one that I had gotten was a little dented up here, but it was fine because I wasn't going to go that far out. So I really wanted to focus on clean, straight lines, or as straight as possible, to make the weld process easier and the whole bondo and everything as seamless as possible. But this is when the process started, and to push this out here, I used that same hydraulic ram that I used to push out the trunk, or the trunk out. I put it against the hub here in the control arms to push this out, and I was able to push it out and make this straight again, really. And another thing too I had to buy for this that also helped for that is I had to buy a fender rolling kit, like that blue tool you use to roll your fenders. I had to use that to fix this, as well as roll it to match the new fender and use that. That was an essential tool, and I've even used it to roll the fenders on the car and other cars since then. So I cut it all out here. You can kind of see what the inner structure looks like. And then I went ahead and I cut it to match, and this part was really hard, and I was doing my best to kind of mark spots where I had to trim down a little bit and adjust, and I was trying to get a really close fitment of this panel, because this one's from a completely different car and I have to take in mind the door fits in. So I was closing and opening the door back and forth, making sure it all fit properly. And this is eventually kind of what it looks like. You can see it's almost perfect. Like, it's a very good fit. I sanded down all the edges, and I watched a couple videos on how to weld. I put the right settings on, and you can see kind of how the door matches really well. And I just started going at it. I started welding. I took it and I started tacking around, making my things. You really don't want to stay in one spot, or else you can warp the panels. So I would tack here and then work my way around, and then back and forth until I was done with it. And this is what I was referring to the tool, you helping me align the edges here, because this also, it's kind of like a sandwich here. So these two layers have to be, and I'll show you right here, this layer and the one from this panel. You see how here I have them clamped together while I have in this process. Those eventually I have to clamp together while I weld them. So I use vice grips for that part of the process. And then I didn't know this really until I noticed my wheels were like pointing the wrong direction in the rear. And what happened was my control arms were bent and even broken. So I needed new control arms. So this is what I ended up making. So I went to that junkyard and I bought these, which I think they were like 10-15 bucks for both of them. And these were from that same 96 Miata, that other Miata the junkyard saved me, really. And I took these and I watched a bunch of videos and did some research on, DIY or buying some adjustable control arms, but they were expensive and I didn't really see the reason to go buy some when I could just try to make it myself and learn something new. So I went ahead and I cut them in half. I separated them out. I bought these this threaded bar at Home Depot. I think in total this is like $10 right here in parts, and some nuts for it. I think these are 1/2 inch. And once I cut them in half, I actually cut another little piece out to account for the nut, the height of it. And then I cut, and this is all using my cheap angle grinder. I cut out a groove inside for the threaded rod to sit in. And once it sits in and I confirm that it's straight on both sides, it's kind of what it looked like. And now the whole next step was just kind of welding it in. This is the part that took a while, but I started the welding process and I welded it fully on there from inside, and then I welded the nut on this end, and it came out really good. And then I just painted them, and this is what they came out looking like. And then I also did paint the differential caps for the bushings for it. So I never replaced the diff bushings. I never took the diff out, but since I had to take the rear subframe because yeah, the rear subframe was also bent. It was bent in the accident, so I needed a new rear subframe, and I did get one from the junkyard as well. And and I also figured, since I'm swapping the subframe, I'll just replace the bushings here for the rear. So I ended up getting these ones here from the junkyard, and I scraped the rubber off of them and I painted them just to make it all match. And here's when I assembled the whole rear end. I have the lower control arms. I painted them. These are the same ones, or the ones from the car in the junkyard as well, the lower ones. And these are the adjusted upper ones of the. You can see the bushings here and the new subframe that I had painted and kind of restored very quickly. Here's a picture of that subframe as I restored it and painted the lower control arms. Yeah, I was trying to go for like a pink and purple galaxy type of theme for this. And then here's what it looks like after I welded in the panel. It's not perfect, but it looks good. And now I just have to start grinding. Right here's kind of where I started grinding, and you can kind of see that it looks pretty smooth after you get rid of some of the welded material. And you can see kind of my stitching as I did here. And maybe I would have left it like this. It would have looked good. I kind of enjoy seeing the patching and how it looks and stuff. And it really tells a story. I mean, now you can't really tell that it looked like that at all, really. So I sanded it all, and you can see here the inside. What I was referring to, underneath here is the older panel. And this is me clamped it together and then welded it. And then I painted it, and this is what it looked like painted. So the Bondo process was as this. I put a lot of Bondo. This part here was a struggle to get. I think maybe I messed up a little bit there in the beginning, but eventually with the Bondo I was able to get the curvature right. It's just this area has a lot of different curves. But yeah, I used the cheese grater. I think there's a specific flexible one for Bondo that I got, and I was able to use that to take care of a lot of the heavy Bondo in this area. And I was able to merge it all in as good as possible. And yeah, then do a lot of sanding with 400, and eventually I did this spot of a lighter coat. It's a thinner Bondo. I forgot the name of it, finishing coat or something, but I put it on. It dried very well, and then I sanded it and I painted it. I primered it again. I wouldn't really recommend the primer. It doesn't work that well for Rust-Oleum in general. I'm just not a big fan of the primer. And then I went ahead and just painted it. And yeah, I needed to do an alignment, and I couldn't really take it anywhere because it's a salvage title. I can't drive it. I can't do anything. So I figured I'm just gonna try doing it myself. So I bought these blades. I think they were like 25, 30 bucks on eBay, and I did the alignment myself. I mean, it's close enough. And I made these blocks from some cheap Home Depot wood, and I put it together, and I was able to align the front and rears with the new control arms. And back to the supercharger. So one of the things with the supercharger is the throttle body, the dummy throttle body that comes with it. It's currently for a NA8 Miata, and the sensors that come with it. And I really wanted to use the NB Miata sensor, the ACV, the intake air control valve, since it performs better, and I was able to tune it more easily than the old one. And for this, I had to make my own dummy throttle body. So I went ahead and I took this old throttle body that I had from another 2005 or so that I got from the junkyard a while ago, and I used my aluminum MIG gun, and I started filling it in as much as possible and cutting out with my my grinder and my belt sander just as much of the extra material. So this used to be a normal throttle body, and I got rid of all the other material, and I was trying to figure out a way to get this elbow. So I designed and 3D printed, and then I had my friend 3D printed PETG this yellow spacer here with that. So this will work perfectly. You just add a hose here and you run it straight to the supercharger intake, and now you have the one that will work, and it even has a temperature sensor on the right, and you can add another sensor here for a boost or whatever. So it does a really good job, and I think it looks really well, especially the inside all smoothed out like that. And then I did restore, since I was working on the rear. I took the brake calipers apart. I kind of fixed them, and the whole reason was, since I had to take the subframe out, I had to undo the brake block that goes there. So I had lost brake pressure. So I figured out, you know what, I'm just gonna get braided brake lines for the rear. I'm gonna go ahead and take the rear brakes and just paint them, and yeah, I did that. And then I also painted the caliper inside where it was really rusty, and And then, bam, I did a test drive around my neighborhood, and it worked perfectly. And that's kind of what it looked like after I put it back together, and it looks just like it did before the accident. And this whole process was, I think, like 2 to 3 months from the time of the crash to now. And yeah, it was very satisfying seeing my progress and having done this. And here's a shot of it at that night. But doing the test drive was really good. And then I eventually, I don't know if I talk about it here, but I went and I went straight to what's it called? I went to a place and I passed the state inspection. So I actually booked it, called, scheduled, figured it all out. I asked the questions, and I was able to pass the inspection for a rebuild title. So I did the whole process myself. I think in total it was like $100 or $200 for the titling process, and from beginning to end, because of the accident, I think it was like $500 total. But you have to understand too, I received an $8,000 settlement, so technically I received it cost me $7,500, negative $7,500. This accident, so I actually made money because I got in the accident. And it still sucks that I had to go through all this, but the amount I learned is valuable in its own. But yeah, I made this quick post about before and after conditions and my process of the main steps, and here it is after, in the garage, after I had done the quarter panel. I was pretty happy with that side. And since then, one of my last posts is here it is. I got this bumper that I started restoring, and I want to do more. I want to show more about this. I have pictures, so I haven't really discussed a bit on Instagram, but it's the Wisdom body kit, and I got the front and rear bumper from this guy, and I'll speak more on that later. But yeah, I also have these are fiberglass fenders that are wide body, and I really like how these look. You may notice a couple things on here that I've changed and stuff, and I'll make videos on these in the future. But overall, it looks really aggressive, and this was just me testing some stuff. And this is kind of where it sits now, really. I posted this last month. I went ahead and I ordered this kit years ago. The maker took forever to make them, and literally I just needed the aluminum piece. I mean, at this point I could have made it myself, really. And I took this aluminum panel and I installed a Raspberry Pi dash on it, and cut out this part down here out of what's it called, polycarbonate, and installed the Spotify carving switches. I have a short throw shifter in there now, and a new radio and charger and everything, and a new steering wheel. I've done so much to the car since, and I haven't really touched on it. I kind of lost motivation since the accident. There's kind of another view of the building process of that, and when I was doing the rewiring of that. Yeah, and that's it. So thank you guys, and smash that bell, subscribe if you want to see the other parts of this history lesson of my Miata and what I've done and my involvement in the Miata community. And if you want to see more Miata content, tech content, keyboard content, memes, or kind of what you guys are feeling, so smash that bell and subscribe. Thank you, boys, fellow bugs. Peace out.
And this should do it for this episode. Stay tuned for next week's episode. Purple Titk out.